guys haven't figured it out yet, I'm a pretty big fan of Mario, as you can probably tell from most of my videos. However, I'd have to say that probably out of all the sub-series of Mario, my personal favorite would have to be the Mario RPGs. I don't know why, I'm just a really big fan of these games, so I decided to make my own countdown about them. Just one thing to note, Legend of the Seven Stars will not be included on this list because I haven't played much of it, therefore I don't think I could pass fair judgment. With all that said, let's begin. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I freaking hate Paper Mario Sticker Star. Before I tear into how bad this game is, I guess I should list the positive aspects of it. The paper gimmick is used at its best here. And that's it, really. On to the negatives. Okay, first off, I don't even think this game should even be considered an RPG, considering you don't even gain experience from battles. So yeah, gaining experience and leveling up, the core mechanic to any RPG, isn't even here. Instead, for battles you get coins which you use to buy stickers which you use to attack, and repeat the cycle indefinitely. The story is flat out terrible for two reasons. One, unlike, pretty much every other Mario RPG where they deviate the norm from the story of Bowser kidnapping Peach and you having to save her, here it's the exact same thing as the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Also, it's incredibly stupid that we're supposed to care about these 8 royal stickers that Bowser has stolen. Seriously, stickers? Why should I care about this? Why do stickers mean so much to the Mushroom Kingdom? Stickers are never mentioned in any other Mario game other than this one, so why should I care? The game doesn't go into any depth whatsoever about what's so important about these stickers other than the fact that they're powerful. Nearly every friendly character in the game is a toad, and nearly every boss in the game is just a giant version of a regular enemy. But by far the worst part about this game is the navigation. Despite feeling more like a new Super Mario Bros. Game than in Mario RPG, you will find yourself constantly getting lost in this game. And people complain about games like Skyward Sword having the game hold your hand is somewhat insulting. Well, it's a lot better than not knowing what the heck you're supposed to do! With this game, it feels like Nintendo thought the sole reason people liked Paper Mario was because of the paper gimmick, and they thought they could make a good game if they put that to perfection, but did horribly in everything else. Well, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So my least favorite of Paper Mario, now here's my least favorite of Mario and Luigi. Why is this my least favorite Mario and Luigi game? Two big reasons. One, the special attack system is you have to buy your individual uses of them instead of having like a special attack system like literally every other Mario RPG with the exception of the last 2 Paper Mario games. So you tend to use them sparingly. Second, the regular enemies have way too much HP, and since you can't use your special attacks to whittle them down, well technically you can, but you have to stockpile them, you're going to want to try to avoid enemies, but then you won't level up, so you'll be underleveled in the RPG, so in order to get 8 levels, you're going to have to go back to previous areas to fight enemies that you should have fought earlier just so you can be on par again. That's not to say I hate this game like I hate Sticker Star. It is pretty enjoyable. Well, the shrooms make for some pretty good villains, has some memorable moments, and some good bosses. And it is pretty fun, although I still do prefer the other 3 Mario and Luigi games. In fact, even if this game didn't have the screwed up health system, I think I still would prefer them over it. But it's not a bad game, I do enjoy it, just not as much as the other Mario RPGs. In order of being released, the original Paper Mario is the first one on this list, and kind of oddly the one I have the least to say about. It's really, well, you know the story that Speedster said of how his, he used to have the game, but then his Wii's memory got cleared out and he never re-downloaded it. Yeah, that same thing happened to me, so I never really got to beat the game, but I had a fun time when I was playing, and it really did set up the Paper Mario formula that was ironically only used one. The game had a variety of chapters, and some even more creative bosses, not to mention it introduced partners, which were a key component of Paper Mario for about 2 games being important. While it is my least favorite of the original 3 Paper Mario games, I still do enjoy it. God, I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, aren't I? Ah yes, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. How could anyone forget this game? It's just so crazy and weird, and it's a lot of fun. The game that started off the Mario and Luigi series and pretty much came up with the whole formula of that you can dodge enemies' attacks in an RPG. You're not forced to take damage, unlike pretty much every other RPG, already has this game standing apart from the crowd. Unlike the other games in the series, there are no gimmicks here. It's just Mario and Luigi. No Baby Bros, no Bowser, no dreams, just regular plain old Mario and Luigi bouncing off each other and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And to be pretty honest, crazy is kind of the best way to describe this game. There's a lot of weird stuff that you find throughout, but all in such a charming way that you really will just enjoy it. This game also really kicked off the whole Mario and Luigi series of just plain crazy style of humor that's been used in all the other games so far. One last thing I've got to commend this game on is the bosses. While I do think that out of the 4 Mario and Luigi games, the bosses here are probably the worst, kind of, in terms of quality, it's just so impressive how many there are and how frequently you fight a boss fight. There's just so many boss fights throughout the game, and it always gives you something to look forward to, as a lot of them do mix it up a bit whenever you fight them. This game's just flat out weird, and I enjoy it. So anyway, on to the next entry. I already talked about this game recently in my top 10 Wii games, but I guess it couldn't hurt to talk about it again. Super Paper Mario is sort of the different game to the Paper Mario series. Unlike most of the other games in the series, this one doesn't follow a turn-based RPG formula. Instead, it's more like a 2D Mario game, but you do get experience for beating enemies as well as items to use on them and so on and so forth. Partners don't play as big of a role in this game as the first 2 Paper Mario games. That's mainly because you can switch between 4 different main characters, Mario, Peach, Bowser, and Luigi. Like I said before, the visual style is something all its own, and it looks really cool, and the soundtrack is one of the best I've ever heard in a video game. Like I said in my previous countdown, this story's pretty good and surprisingly dark for a Mario game. The villains here are some of the best in the series, with special mentions going to Count Black and Dementio. My big problem with this game, though, is the level design. A lot of the levels just don't really do it for me, aren't really that memorable, and while there are some standouts in this game, there are standouts on both sides of the spectrum. Sure, there are some pretty awesome levels such as Fort Francis, the Flora Caverns, and the Woe Zone, but then there's levels like the one where you have to pay off Mimi for her vase that you're required to break, the level where you have to memorize incredibly long combinations from Jasperoid, and the level where you have to fight 25 mini-bosses just to get to the end. Yeah, that might seem overly negative, but keep in mind this game's at number 4, so you can tell that I still really like it. While I hate that one aspect, I like a lot of the other aspects of this game, which is how it managed to make it to number 4. These top 3 were really tough to decide which one it would be. So yeah, they're really close together in quality, and I like all 3 of them a lot. Oh yeah, Mario and Luigi Bowser Inside Story. Where do I begin with this one? Oh, maybe the fact that you play as Bowser in this game would be a good place to start. And let me tell you, he is fun to play as. Just how powerful his attacks are and how fun they are to pull off. How you don't have to worry about 2 people to dodge, it's just one, Bowser. Meanwhile, Mario and Luigi are traversing inside Bowser's insides. While it might seem gross, it's really just creative, and the terrain changes depending on stuff that Bowser does throughout the game. For the artwork, you can tell that it's sprite animation, and this is some of the best sprite work I've ever seen in a video game. And as for the music in this game, while I said that Super Paper Mario was my favorite soundtrack, this one is probably my second favorite Mario RPG soundtrack. Not to mention, this game introduced giant battles to the series, where, well, in this game, it's Giant Bowser that you play as, just, fighting against enemies giant by turning the DS sideways, and let me tell you, it's fun. Shame it's only used 4 times throughout the game. Oh, and did I mention Fawful? Yeah, Fawful's in this game. Let me tell you who it's at his best in the series. I know he's been in both Partners in Time and Superstar Saga, but he was never really the main villain, now was he? He's constantly in your face throughout the whole game. Even if he doesn't bother to show up, one of his Fawful copters will come to deliver a message from him. And let me tell you, he is a great villain to this. I wasn't kidding when I said he was one of the best villains in the Mario series. While Dementio's pretty good too, but Fawful I still think is deserving of the #1 spot, although Dementio is still pretty close. This is also actually the first Mario RPG that I've even played. Granted, I had played Super Paper Mario before this, however, I'd only played like the first few chapters. Here though, I had pretty much finished this game before I'd even played most of these other ones. To be perfectly honest, I have a really tough time deciding which game I like better. This game, or #2 on the list. If I had to sum this game up in one word, it would be creative. But that's not the only reason I like Mario and Luigi Dream Team. For starters, it seems like with all the stuff that Bowser's Inside Story introduced, Dream Team took it the furthest they possibly could. Instead of going inside Bowser, this time in the game has the Dream World, which is inside Luigi's dreams, where, and since it's a dream, anything's possible, and let me tell you, they do tons of crazy stuff with this, and it's just awesome. Not to mention the Dream World itself just looks really cool. The battles themselves also function really differently between the real world and the Dream World. On the real world, it's typical Mario and Luigi fare. You know, Mario and Luigi both fighting alongside each other, and so long as one of them's still standing, they're alright. In the Dream World, the fighting is more similar to playing as Bowser, where you have just Mario, but he's powered up a lot, so he can dish out heavier attacks both in power and in range. And the nice thing is you can choose which style of battling you want if you want to grind levels, as opposed to Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, where only playing as Bowser would get you EXP as Bowser, and only Mario and Luigi will give it to you when you're Mario and Luigi, and so on and so forth. I also feel they gave the battles a lot more depth to them, no pun intended, because just, you know, their enemies attack in a lot more different ways that you wouldn't see in the previous Mario and Luigi games, and again, I think it's pretty cool. While Fawful's not in this game, a lot of the new characters introduced are pretty interesting, such as Dreambird, the Batsmith, and of course Phantasma, the Bat King, and they brought back a lot of characters from the previous 3 Mario and Luigi games, such as the Elite Trio, and Popple, who I didn't think I'd see again after Superstar Saga. While I already praised the Dream World, the real world is still pretty cool too, having a lot of neat locations such as Wakeport and Mount Pajama. Also the giant battles. I didn't think it was possible, but they somehow managed to make them even better in this game. Maybe it's because of the fact that you can also refight them, unlike in Bowser's Inside Story. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about minigames. They brought the gauntlet back in this game with the improvement of now being able to refight every boss in the game as opposed to just a few of them. As for the forced minigames in the past 3 that everyone hated, they finally took them out. One last thing I'd like to mention about this game though is Bowser. Let's just say, if this game had come out before I had made top 10 Mario villains, Bowser would have been #3 on the list. This is by far the best he's been in this series. Not only does he have that same comedic attitude that he did in Bowser's Inside Story, although to a lesser degree, he's also really threatening in this game too, and even having a big part in a plot twist that you will not see coming. By process of elimination, you could have figured out that this was my favorite Mario RPG. So why do I like Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door? Well, for starters, I feel it encompasses a lot of the things that make the Mario RPGs great. The story, the humor, the characters, the gameplay, a bunch of stuff. The humor in this game is some of the best in the series, and definitely the best out of the Paper Mario games. Probably even better than most of the Mario and Luigi games at that. The story in this game, while not nearly as dark as Super Paper Mario, does something a bit differently. Each chapter, with the exception of the last one, has its own story to tell. That differs from, the main story, which unravels little by little as you go along. My personal favorites are the one where you participate in an elite fighting ring, the one where you solve a bunch of mysteries or the XS Express, and the one where you suffer the worst case of identity theft ever. The partners in this game play a bigger role than ever or before. Not only can they learn a lot more attacks and are overall more useful, but also have a lot more field abilities as well. Not to mention the battle system. Oh boy, the battle system. This is one of the best battle systems I've ever seen in any video game. Why? Because of the fact that so much can happen. And people from the audience will throw stuff at you that can both help you and harm you, and you have to disable them, obviously, if you're throwing something harmful, or, catch it if they're throwing something helpful. You have a bunch of different attacks using different action commands in order to get them. Not to mention special attacks, the slot machine, and just random stuff that can happen because you're on a stage. I'm the Fossilizer. Why can't we have more Paper Mario games like this? I mean, I can understand Super Paper Mario. In fact, that was a pretty awesome game, but Sticker Star? No. Just no. In fact, in beta screenshots of Sticker Star, it was originally supposed to be a traditional Paper Mario game, but then they scrapped that in favor of what it is now, and you already know how I feel about that.